Hey, how's it going today? Luke, the Hard Times guy here. What I want to do for a little while today is talk to you about my book. Yeah, I wrote a book. Actually, over a long period of time, I accumulated some writings, and one day I decided to turn them into a book, and so I started doing that, and it didn't go real fast. I wasn't really focused on it, so there was a few more years went by and still no book. And then I finally got serious about it, and I decided I'm gonna finish my book. So I worked really hard and every day and stuck to it and talked to some people about how I could make it better. Had some other people looking at it and helped me with it, and finally I finished it, and I had a book. So I began telling people that I knew that I'd written a book and had a book, and they began to ask me where could they buy my book. And I said, well, I have it in a folder, and it's in my computer. You can't buy it. I have it. I've printed it all out. I got maybe 3 or 4 of them in a folder that I've had some people looking at. And they said, Luke, you haven't written a book. You haven't written a book until it's published. Yeah, I chewed on that a while. Probably, I don't know, another 6 months that I wallered that around. You don't have a book until it's published. So I decided I was going to publish the book, and eventually I did. So now I can say I have a book. It is published. You can buy it. Go to Amazon or someplace like that online, buy my book. Or you can, if you're in Bedford, Indiana, I can just sell you one, just hand you one, and maybe sign it for you and sell it to you that way. Either way, I have a book. Today I want to talk about my book. It's got some stuff on the back of it that is there so that if you pick it up and look at it in a bookstore or you look at it online, you can read this stuff, and this stuff's supposed to make you want to buy the book, kind of tell you what it's about. And probably one of these days I'm going to let you read this too in one of my videos. But today I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to open the book up, and I'm going to read you a little bit of it. Back in the day, the old country church raised the windows on a hot summer day and raised their voices in the choir. There was no problem hearing the singers in those days as they belted out an old spiritual from a tattered hymn book. People up and down the holler could hear their voices on any given Sunday. No microphones, no amplifiers, no artificial electronic aid of any kind. Just enthusiastic men and women lifting their voices in worship and praise. Of course, some of the ladies and gentlemen had more volume than some of the others. If there was a sound system, it was the good sister who led the choir, pointing to one of those big voices to come in now, or on their solo part, or giving the hands down signal to a section of the choir while a sweet-voiced trio sang the chorus in 3-part harmony. The special music in those days was smooth, mellow Marian and raspy Alma singing Amazing Grace, or Big Bob with his booming baritone belting out a rendition of How Great Thou Art. Over the years, a lot of things changed. Started out simple enough. RMC brought electricity. They got lights in the church. They got heat too, with a thermostat. Johnny didn't have to come over at 5:30 and fire up the wood stove. Singers got microphones. and guitars got amplifiers. Some folks, mostly the Methodists, even got electric organs. Marion and Alma weren't special anymore, no sir. Special music came on a bus with their own sound system. Speakers and amplifiers and wires were strung everywhere. Everyone had their own mic. There was this big old box with some 50 knobs on it. They stuck it back behind the musicians, and somebody, it was usually the bass guitar player, turned around and fiddled with those knobs through the whole performance. Pretty soon, it got too big for the bass guy to handle by himself, and everybody started going to the corner and turning knobs. One night at a revival meeting over at Cook's Crossing Pentecostal Church, there was a fight broke out who was going to turn the knobs. Somebody pulled a knife and the lead guitar player got cut, and all the walling around the aquarium got knocked over and the snakes got loose. Pure bedlam. Wasn't too long that special music groups started bringing along an extra guy they called the sound technician. Special groups wasn't just somebody's cousin either. You had to pay them to come. The deacons liked to have a connection when they first found out about that. Seemed like there was something sinful about paying for music in the church. Most of the time, the special music was happy if you just took up a special offering and give it to them. Sometimes these groups had a repainted Greyhound bus, and they wanted a guaranteed amount and an offering. A rule of thumb was the more knobs they had on their sound system box, the more money they wanted to come sing. These special music folks couldn't be having all this fun for long without somebody in the choir noticing it. The choir director went to the deacons and got them to buy a microphone for the church. The first one had black foam rubber over the part you sang into. This didn't last long. I mean, one mic wasn't enough to keep the singers in the church happy. Before long, our little church had 4 mics on their own stands. They each had a foam rubber of a different color. There was a couple more on standby under the pulpit in case of unusual circumstances or emergencies. Back in the corner, behind the piano player, we had a sound system box with 12 knobs on it. That don't seem like much compared to 50, but it wasn't bad for a church the size of ours. Of course, we had some of the same problems everybody else did. Too many people wanting to turn them knobs. We pretty much came up with the same fix everybody else did. We moved the knobs to the back of the church and appointed a sound technician. Makes sense, don't it? The folks at the back of the church are the ones who can best judge if they're hearing what's up front. Problem was, the guy in the back wasn't a technician. He was just the guy that usually sat closest to where they moved the box. To make matters worse, he was nearly deaf. How was he to know where the sound was right or not? When we built a new sanctuary, though, we added more speakers and more mics, a new control box with lots more knobs on it. We built a control area, kind of like an elevated desk for the newly appointed technician. Can't just anybody be the technician now. They got to be qualified. How you get qualified is the husband of the music director says you're qualified. The first person to be declared qualified is the official sound technician. When that person isn't in attendance, someone else is a declared qualified, and they become the first assistant technician. I think right now we have the official technician and 7 assistants. I don't know if that many can be justified, but the whole thing is bona fide because it was voted on by the deacons. The qualifications to be declared qualified haven't been voiced or written to anyone's knowledge. It appears, though, that you can't be colorblind. The mics are all color-coded. And you have to be able to tell which ones to regulate by their color. You can be absolutely deaf as long as you have good eyesight. It's a far piece from the booth to the front of the church. And you have to be able to see the hand signals from the music director's husband. He is operating from predetermined directions and written notes from his wife. These are subject to change by muttering, gesturing, and secret hand signals she orchestrates from her position in front of the choir. Now, she has her back to the church, and so we can't see her signals. Her husband is standing in the back of the choir. He interprets those signals and relays them to the technician. Usually this amounts to his pointing upward with his forefinger in an annoying, increasingly impatient manner until the sound from the tape background music is so loud the people in the church can't possibly hear any but the very loudest of the choir members. You probably figured out by now that this system, complicated as it is, has nothing to do with the quality of music presented to the congregation. The system is in place to assign blame when anything goes wrong with the music program. You know things have gone wrong when the music director turns completely around without moving her feet and glares at the technician. The music director immediately blames her husband, who can now make some remark and go on, or he can blame the technician. The technician can just ignore this and go on, or she can blame the assistant technician, the one that turns the knobs that weren't supposed to in the Wednesday night service. As you can imagine, the options are virtually endless. Once in a great while, things get out of hand, not like over at Cook's Crossing, but bad enough that the preacher directs a sermon at the problem. He builds his case around scriptures like Paul's analogy of the church being one body with different members all working together for the same purpose. This gives us, the individual members of the congregation, an opportunity to look at ourselves and say, you are here. Then, if you don't like the assessment of where you are, you can decide what action to take to correct your problem. Most of the good folks leave that day feeling better about each other and blaming the REMC. The name of the book is Observations, Basketball and Bird Dogs. You can tell by what I just read you that it's not confined to discussions about basketball and bird dogs. Hope you've enjoyed what I just read. Hope it makes you want to buy my book. I hope as we continue on with these videos, the stories in them might make you want to buy my book. Actually, these videos are, a lot of them, based on stories that I had written for a second book. Decided not to do the second book. Decided to just put it out on YouTube videos. And that, along with a couple of other things, is the reason that we now have Hard Times Originals. Thank you for your attention. I'm Luke, the Hard Times Guy.